They say that it's almost impossible to lie to a lie detector test, but that isn't entirely true because sometimes people can trick it. And even more interestingly, sometimes they don't even know that they're lying. This is the story of a girl who thought she was a serial killer but wasn't. Welcome to my channel. Today we'll be discussing this very interesting case. If you're new here, then make sure to subscribe so you get notified when I upload a new video. Let's get right into it. In 2018, a young girl by the name of Mary reached out to the police in South Australia. Before approaching them, she had already written down everything she wanted to tell them about her horrific crimes. The letter included where she buried the bodies of her victims, how she committed the murders, and all the other grisly details. However, when the police conducted an investigation at the sites where Mary said she buried the bodies, they didn't find anything. They also searched through her house from top to bottom, but found no evidence of her heinous crimes. And it's not like she was a sloppy killer either. After finishing her horrific deed, she would wash herself thoroughly with cold water and soap. She was also extremely careful to clean up any trace of blood and remove any physical evidence she could. She even went as far as to throw away the murder weapon after each use. But what was most shocking was that Mary genuinely believed that she was a serial killer. She truly felt remorseful about what she had done and actually confessed to the murders because she felt guilty. How could someone confess to crimes they didn't commit? Well, that's what we're going to try to find out today. But before we do that, let me ask you a question. Do you think Mary was truly innocent, or was she just really good at hiding the evidence of her crimes? Comment down below with your thoughts. Mary was only 19 years old when she was accused of these brutal killings. She grew up in a small town in South Australia and always had a reputation for being a bit odd. According to her neighbors and school friends, she was often seen talking to herself and seemed to be distant from reality. When she was younger, Mary loved animals and would take care of stray dogs and cats that she found wandering around her neighborhood. But something strange was that she would also dissect these poor animals and use their skin to make weird dolls. She would hang these dolls in her room and talk to them like they were real people. Her mother was extremely concerned by this behavior, but as Mary got older, this strange behavior turned into something much darker. When Mary was a teenager, she began killing small animals in her neighborhood. She would lure them into her garage with food and then suffocate them. She then proceeded to cut up the lifeless bodies and threw their remains into the nearby river. Even though she was just killing defenseless animals, she still felt the need to wash her hands thoroughly with cold water and soap afterwards. One day, Mary told her mother that she had killed 2 cats, a dog, and some birds. When her mother asked her why she did such a thing, Mary replied that she just couldn't stand the sight of their eyes staring at her. From that day forward, Mary's mother became convinced that her daughter needed help and took her to see a psychiatrist. However, the doctor said that Mary was perfectly fine and that there was nothing wrong with her. He prescribed her antidepressants, but they did nothing to change her violent behavior. In fact, Mary's violent streak continued to escalate. She began having visions of harming humans instead of animals. She started planning out her murders in detail, writing down everything she would need to commit the perfect crime. As time went on, she began experimenting with different ways to kill people. She researched poisons and studied how long it took for them to take effect. She even went as far as to buy some of these poisons from a local store. But none of these methods satisfied her, so she decided to go back to her roots and strangle her victims to death. According to Mary, the first human life she extinguished belonged to a woman she saw walking alone late one night. She waited until the coast was clear and then pounced on her victim. She strangled the woman until she blacked out and then dragged her to her home. With great effort, she managed to carry the unconscious woman up the stairs to her bedroom. There, she tied her to the bed and proceeded to assault her. But after a while, the woman regained consciousness and began screaming for help. Mary panicked and quickly covered her victim's mouth with duct tape. Then she brought out her trusty meat cleaver and ended the woman's life. After doing what she came for, Mary proceeded to dismember the woman's body and threw the remains in a nearby dumpster. She washed herself thoroughly with cold water and soap after getting rid of the body. And to make sure the police wouldn't connect her to the crime, she disposed of the evidence. However, this was just the beginning of Mary's murderous rampage. Over the next few months, she killed several more women in the exact same way. She would wait until late at night and then strangle them until they blacked out. Then she would take them back to her house and do unspeakable things to them. But despite the brutality of her crimes, she never left any evidence behind. She was always careful to clean herself and dispose of the evidence properly. But eventually, the police caught up with her and arrested her for the heinous crimes she had committed. That is, of course, after she had confessed to them. But why would someone confess to crimes they didn't commit? Well, in Mary's case, it was because she was actually insane. Despite the fact that she confessed to 13 gruesome murders, she was found not guilty by reason of insanity. Her defense attorney argued successfully that she was mentally ill and didn't know the difference between right and wrong. After hearing this, you might be wondering why she was able to live among us for so long without anyone noticing that she was insane. Well, this is because Mary was suffering from a rare mental illness called dissociative identity disorder. This condition causes a person to have multiple personalities, and in Mary's case, one of her alternate personalities was that of a serial killer. This personality would take over whenever Mary saw an innocent person walking alone late at night. It would then compel her to kill the person and satisfy her bloodlust. The crazy thing is that Mary had no idea that she was suffering from this illness. She genuinely believed that she was a normal person who just happened to have a dark side. She tried to hide this dark side from everyone, including her family and friends. But eventually it caught up with her and she was forced to seek professional help. This is when she was diagnosed with dissociative identity disorder. But even after learning this, Mary refused to believe that she was mentally ill. She thought that she was perfectly fine and that it was her abusive childhood that caused her to develop this alter ego. According to Mary, her father used to beat her and her mother would watch him do it without doing anything to stop him. This made Mary feel unwanted and unloved, which caused her to lash out at society. She felt that she had no control over her actions and that she was just a victim of circumstance. Because of this, she should not be held accountable for her crimes. The judge agreed with Mary's lawyer and found her not guilty by reason of insanity. She was then sent to a mental institution where she remains to this day. But this case raises a lot of questions. How could someone with multiple personalities live among us for so long without anyone noticing? Is it possible to have an alter ego that is evil? And what happens to people who are found not guilty by reason of insanity? Well, the truth is that dissociative identity disorder is a real mental illness. And although it is rare, it does happen. People with this condition often have no idea that they have multiple personalities. They may only realize it when they are in therapy or when they are accused of committing crimes they don't remember doing. As for whether or not it's possible to have an alter ego that is evil, the answer is probably yes. Although most alter egos are not violent, there have been cases of people with dissociative identity disorder committing heinous crimes. This is because these alternate personalities can be stronger than the host personality. Sometimes they take over completely and cause the person to do things they would never do otherwise. As for what happens to people who are found not guilty by reason of insanity, they are usually sent to mental institutions where they remain until they are deemed harmless. In some cases, they are able to reintegrate into society once they receive treatment for their mental illness. but in other cases, they remain locked up for the rest of their lives. Now, I want to hear from you. What do you think of this case? Let me know in the comments. And if you liked this video, then make sure to subscribe and share it with a friend. Thanks for watching.